Hello, team. Welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a US international politics special or breaking news update, really, with regard to the trade wars that were just about to properly start and have appeared to have come to a rather premature close, which is good news, of course. However, the question is, how do we interpret this? So, those that really want to be very pro-Trump will be saying this is a massive Trump win. He's, really turned on uh, the pressure, um, opened all the valves up on Mexico and Canada, and have got Canada and Mexico to do exactly what he wants. It's a very positive view of what's happened. The other view is that he has wimped out and backed down. And in fact, Canada and Mexico were able to negotiate themselves out of a very sticky situation without really giving Trump very much at all. And if you're going to be very pro Trump, obviously, you're going to opt for the former. If you're very anti Trump, and I am not a big fan of Trump, you'll opt for the latter. So if we try and put our biases aside, what is the most realistic interpretation of what's happened? And I would, and you'll be unsurprised to know, I would opt for the latter, but I've got some receipts to show you concerning that. Right. So what has happened? Well, Trump has postponed both the Mexican and Canadian tariffs for at least 30 days. Trudeau has said the following. I just had a good call with President Trump. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-US joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I've also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we'll be backing it with $200 million. Proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days while we work together. Okay, so you're thinking, oh, that's a lot of good stuff that Canada has thrown at this problem, which would please Trump. And with Mexico, somewhat similar. Mexico are going to throw 10,000 soldiers at the border, etc., etc. The interesting thing is that this was kind of going to happen anyway. Well, with the Canadian um, situation there, to all the MAGA who is saying Trump got what he wanted because Mexico is sending 10,000 troops to the border. So actually, this isn't the Canadian one, this is the Mexican one. Biden achieved the same deployment in 2021 without any threats. And so the first thing to note is that, as I kind of hinted at, this would have happened anyway, or could have happened without going through the whole rigmarole of a very damaging, internationally damaging, PR damaging potential trade war. So in April 2021, Biden managed to get a deployment of 10,000 troops, and Guatemala surged 1,500 police and military personnel to its southern border. Honduras deployed 7,000 police. Blah blah blah. So Biden got a similar sort of thing done without going to a trade war. And with regard um, to what Canada has thrown at the situation, it appears that this was a deal that was going to happen anyway, which is pretty interesting. So, Caitlin Collins said Canada is going to be implementing a $1.3 billion border plan where they talk about reinforcing the border. I should note that that's actually something that was announced back in December, which is, so what I think has happened, my synopsis of what's happened is that Trump actually wanted something else from Canada. He may well have wanted border and fentanyl stuff sorted out with Mexico, and I think that was probably top of the agenda there. But with Canada, he really wants Canada to be the 51st state of America. The fentanyl being shipped across the border is negligible. The border crossing issues are not nearly as problematic as the southern border, and so therefore, going to have a trade war with Canada over fentanyl and border crossings was always a weird thing to do, and it wasn't what he wanted. So what he wanted was Canada to be the 51st state of America, and we know this because he literally told us. Listen to Donald Trump's words.
When you talk to Justin Trudeau again, is there anything he can give you at 3 p.m. when you talk again to also secure a pause, like you said, with Mexico?
I don't know. We have big deficits with Canada.
So what can Trudeau give you? So is this about fentanyl and the border crossings? And Trump is asked, what can Trudeau give you to stop this trade war happening? And he says, I don't know. There are big deficits. So he's worried about the trade deficit with Canada.
Like we do with all countries. I mean, I look at some of the deals made, I say, who the hell made these deals that are so bad?
This is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And people have called Trump out on this because do you know who made those really bad trade deals? Literally Donald Trump. So he signed the trade deal with Canada and he tore up the last trade deal and signed up to a new one. And he is doing over his own effort at sorting out a free trade agreement with North American neighbors. So that's hilarious in and of itself, and lots of people have pointed this out.
But with Canada, I have a talk with him, and you maybe know or maybe not. We're going to meet again or talk again at 3 o'clock, right after my next meeting, and we'll see what happens. I can't tell you what's going to happen.
You mentioned that he could agree to change your mind on the tariffs?
Well, we can always, but look, what I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection.
So he's told you, I'm just about to have a phone call with Justin Trudeau. Is there anything that he can do? I want Canada to be the 51st state. That's what he wants from Canada. Canada have not given him any of those things. So the question is, will this actually rumble on? Now, or is Trump happy with what Canada has done? Now, my position is that he has probably been lobbied by a lot of people behind the scenes. The Canadian dollar has tanked, Mexican peso has tanked, and that means that imports from those two countries will now be cheaper, which means that the tariffs are going to be completely negated by the falling currencies. Not only that, but I think he's realized that, first of all, this is deeply unpopular. CNN came out with a poll to show this is wildly unpopular. Only 38% of people thought it was a good idea, and most people didn't. It was also going to be inflationary. And we have seen his own popularity, that's Trump's favorability ratings, drop by 10 points within 1 week. So this was definitely not popular. It was going to be inflationary, and he will have had loads of business people. The automotive industry was absolutely, not happy with this. The construction industry with lumber, energy industry, so on and so forth. Loads of people would have been knocking at Trump's Oval Office door and saying, this is really bad, don't do this. So although Canada would have found it more painful than the US, that's irrelevant to the US. If the US is going to find that really painful and you don't need to do it, then it's probably not worth doing. So the gains are not worth the pains. So I think he's been lobbied. He's realized that actually these aren't taxes on a foreign country, but taxes on your own population. And I think he's done a volte-face while still claiming that he's had a win. And this is what many people were saying was going to happen anyway. He would be, full of bluster, this, that, and the other, then realize it was a bit of a stupid decision, claim a victory, and then pull out. Lo and behold, I think that's what's happened. So you might think that, he's got what he wants from Canada. He hasn't. He's told you what he wants from Canada, and he hasn't got that. So you have to deal with Trump's own words, right? Those are his words. He wants Canada to be the 51st state of America, and it hasn't happened. If we go to the Canadian media to get their sense of what's gone on, there's pretty similar synopsis to my own.
I think the pretext of this in the executive order was the border. But just 2 hours ago, he was talking about annexing us and making us the 51st state and how terrible a trading relationship we have and how bad that we have been to him, in his view, or to the United States. So I would say, like, my conclusion out of all of this is we may be breathing a sigh of relief at the moment for the next 30 days. But I think that the president still sees utility, whether, the facts bear it out or not, and in most cases they do not, of tariffs, particularly in raising revenue, and as a thing, as he said, a beautiful thing. So I would be nervous to think that this is, crossing the finish line, or we will avert the application of these tariffs on a permanent basis. I think he still sees them as a useful policy tool, which means, the pressure is on, and we'll see what happens in 30 days. But 30 days is better than them coming into effect tomorrow.
That's for sure. Okay, Vash.
So pretty much exactly how I see it. And Ann Applebaum says this is a performative trade war. It's completely performative. So Trump hurt America's relationship with Canada and made markets wobble. So that's the other thing, is that the markets tumbled today, and he is big on markets. So that's communicated an awful lot to Trump as well. So they had a wobble all to get Canada to do things Canada had announced back in December in coordination with the Biden administration. Do I have that right? So again, we're back to this idea that Canada have announced what they were going to do anyway, and then Trump claims that as a win. And then everyone just calms down, and pro-Trump media will be like, "Oh, well done, Trump. You've been a bully boy, and you've gone and got what you wanted." Except he hasn't really got what he wanted, particularly with both countries actually, because Mexico had that many troops down on the border anyway, plus some, and so it's like it doesn't really make any difference whatsoever. What do we have? Ann Applebaum again. So Canada and Mexico win. So she sees this as a win for Mexico and Canada, and we move to a new era of performative trade war. We have Edward Hunter Christie saying Trump suspends his threatened tariffs against Canada for 30 days. Canada's Justin Trudeau announces he had a good call with Trump and that he will introduce new border security measures to combat fentanyl smuggling. This largely mirrors what Mexico successfully negotiated earlier today. This development suggests that Trump either, one, blinked in the face of resolute resistance from both Ottawa and Mexico City, as well as from discreet domestic criticism and other foreign signals. That's what I think has actually happened when you had Ottawa saying that they were going to cancel a $100 million Starlink contract, to which Elon Musk said, "Oh, well, what's $100 million between mates?" But I think a lot of this, both rhetoric and action, will have hurt Trump, and I think he would have read the tea leaves. But the other option is that this was a show from the start, and Trump was wanting to appear tough on fentanyl. But we know that's not the case, certainly with Canada, because he was asked, and it was nothing to do with fentanyl. It's wanting 51st state of America and wanting to sort out a trade deficit. That's what he's on about. So it's not the second part, particularly for Canada, might well have been more to do with fentanyl with Mexico. So at this point, uncertainty as to Trump's true thinking and intentions regarding the country's neighbors has arguably grown. His signals were all over the place. He used fentanyl and immigration as the ostensible arguments, while also railing against alleged economic unfairness. If he believes the latter to be true, he may still desire tariffs, and he may still bring back the threat of them and ultimately enact them. And that's what the Canadian news team was saying just then. Or he thinks arm twisting neighbors and allies is a blast, and I think there's also that too, to which Edward Hunter Christie says both are bad. Absolutely. Pretty incredible. Now, it's worth listening to Ronald Reagan here with some very prescient words.
Our peaceful trading partners are not our enemies. They are our allies. We should beware of the demagogues who are ready to declare a trade war against our friends, weakening our economy, our national security, and the entire free world, all while cynically waving the American flag.
Boom. That basically is an absolute sucker punch to Trump there.
Expansion of the international economy is not a foreign invasion. It is an American triumph, one we worked hard to achieve, and something central to our vision of a peaceful and prosperous world of freedom.
So to all...
And if you want to have a good I don't know how long is it, probably almost 10 minutes. If you want to have a good 10 minutes, go and listen to Claudia Scheinbaum's speech to Trump today, or to America, or to her nation, actually, and to Mexicans living in America. She absolutely rinses Trump, in my opinion, and says, hang on, how about you guys worry about the people buying this fentanyl? How about you worry about the drugs going on and the trafficking from your point of view? Yeah, you can have a go at the fentanyl for coming across the border, but you're the ones that are demanding it because the addiction rates have gone nuts. What are you doing about that? And she's got a point. So it's well worth listening to what she says to get a proper sense of actually how Trump has gone down. North and south of the border. In Canada, there's all of this analysis saying that they are more united than they've ever been, right across the political spectrum, left to right, in hating on America right now. Trump is deeply unpopular, even with erstwhile pro-Trumpists. So this is a real shot in the foot for Trump. The PR for America has just gone right downhill. And apparently, Daily Beast, Julia Davis has just written an article on how the Russian propagandists are laughing. They've had the best week ever. Trump has done everything that Russia wanted. And it's absolutely true. The propagandists must be cock-a-hoop about what's going on in the US as Trump is attempting, well, the West is eating itself because Trump is particularly greedy at the moment, and he's feeling in a very bullying sort of mood. But anyway, Scheinbaum's speech is actually a really strong riposte to his positioning. What else is there to say? So Biden was able to get the same ask from Mexico back in 2021, and he did it without alienating our trade partners and tanking the stock market. Brilliant gamble, mate, says this source. Biden orders migrant crackdown. Mexico sends 10,000 troops to the border. So it's been done before, right? You didn't need to have a trade war or a threatened trade war over this. Anyone, says Catherine Rampart, anyone reporting Mexico conceded anything to Trump to get him to delay tariffs has not done their homework. Trump boasted got Scheinbaum to commit to stationing 10,000 troops on our border. Apparently, he didn't realize Mexico already has 15,000 troops deployed there. And there's some stats to back that up. And this has pushed Canada further away from the United States and actually further towards Europe. There's been some really interesting moves and statements. One is that actually Canada has a border with Denmark. So there's this one island where half the island is Danish and half the island is Canadian. And actually, Guy Verhofstadt, the former Belgian Prime Minister, has touted today that there should be moves to get Canada to join the EU. And so it's fascinating. Here, should Canada seriously consider enhancing trade with the European Union? 77% of people in Canada say yes, 14% say no. There is an overwhelming sense that the US suck at the moment in Canada, and actually they should be pushed further or they should be moving further towards Europe there. So it's all happening at the moment. Yet it might seem like there's been a bit of a stare of execution in terms of what would have been a very damaging trade war for for all nations, in fact, the whole world. This would be incredibly inflationary. There would be jobs lost. It would have been really ugly. So it's great that this has been averted. It didn't need to happen, and I don't think Trump has got what he wanted, and that leads us to believe that he might well have a second bite of the apple after 30 days, particularly regarding Canada. So, yeah, let me know what you think about this and whether you think I'm anywhere near the mark here. But I certainly don't think this is a Trump win. It really isn't, because if you listen to the rhetoric around the world about Trump throughout all the allied world, if you like, Europe, the UK, Canada, Mexico, everyone is hating on Trump at the moment. My socials are full of Trump being an absolute wingnut. He's not done himself any favors, and I don't think he's particularly gained at all, while tanking the stock markets and losing a lot of goodwill amongst what should be really, really close neighbors and allies. So yeah, I'm sure Fox News will be saying this is a great win for Trump. Isn't he strong, etc., etc., etc. It's just I don't think you can rationally hold to that given what he's actually said about what his objectives truly were. He's not achieved them, and yeah, it's all just a hot mess. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. I'll speak to you soon.